All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of I Do Affirm Affirmation Conversation. Today's guest is Steve Minyard. He hails from Memphis, Tennessee. He currently lives at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, good. Well, please tell us about how you journeyed from Memphis to Bragg. I will say I used to be stationed at Bragg, so I was there for about 15 months. And I have been to Memphis. I did a Memphis in May. I did the whole Beale Street. I
Oh, sweet.
did Lorraine Motel. So that was an amazing experience. I did one of the Neely's barbecue restaurants. So
Yes.
I've touched
Yeah.
down in Memphis a time or two.
That's what Memphis is known for. So they're kind of the barbecue, uh, I guess, kind of the center of gravity of that part of the country. So that's a great question. I've never really kind of thought my journey like that. But my father worked for the federal government there. He was in the postal service, and that was kind of our why our family was in Memphis when I was born there. And about 3 or 4 years after that, my family moved to Texas. So moved to North Texas, where I lived, a little town called Duncanville, right outside of Dallas, and joined the Army at the age of 18 out of Duncanville, Texas. And that kind of journey, when I went in and signed up, I wanted to drive tanks, and they handed me this big book and said, "No, why don't you pick something else? We've got this thing that's legal specialist." And I thought I wanted to be an attorney or run for Congress when I went to the Army for some weird reason. So I was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of interesting and close to what I want to eventually do when I grow up. Sure, I'll do that for a couple of years, and that won't be my career, but I'll just do that to get some money for college." So went from there to my first active duty assignment and the 25th Infantry Division at Fort Shafter, Hawaii, with a great mentor of mine, now Colonel Balcom Folk. He was the first JAG I literally ran into leaving my office. So, oh my goodness, a judge advocate. So did an active duty tour and then jumped into the Army Reserve in 1997. That was a long time ago, last century. Hard to believe. But yeah, that just sounds so odd. But from about 1997, went back to North Texas, went to Texas Christian University, got my undergraduate degree, and then got married there shortly after I got my degree, and then came onto the AGR program. I'm an active Army Reserve soldier, still a paralegal. So the little 4-year vision that I had was just annihilated, and I've been doing it over 20 years since then. So as an AGR, went through OTJAG, the JAG school, came here to Fort Bragg at the Army Reserve Command. And as they are wont to do, I escaped for a little bit, went to the Sergeant Major Academy and the Legal Command, Ops Sergeant Major, and then I'm back here
Wow.
at
Literally hit
beautiful Fort Bragg.
every freaking, if we were to put our major positions on a map, you've literally hit every one of them. That's phenomenal. That's
Cool.
awesome.
And that's yeah. And I've been very lucky because a lot of those were just like, I had no idea. Hey, Minyard, you're going to go here. All right, that sounds cool. There's trees there. I like trees. Awesome. Yeah. I kind of bumbled through my career, and now I'm here in beautiful Fort Bragg. So, which is a nice place. It gets a bun rap, but I actually don't mind it that much.
It's not
They're
bad.
better.
I would
Yes.
definitely say that your work history basically is a good segue into the topic of this conversation, which is the affirmation lucky. So this topic today, you guys, is I am lucky, which definitely, I mean, you might not know anything about what he just said, but those people who are watching who do know that that is a very lucky career path. So so Steve,
Absolutely. Yes. And I've been lucky to have mentors that guided me to those two that I didn't know that, the JAG school there, just for instance, was, or actually my first AGR position at PPNTO. I didn't know what PPNTO was.
right.
Like, oh, okay, that sounds, that's JAG stuff in Washington. I knew it was in Washington, D.C., and that's it. So I've been blessed to have people that brought me into places that I stumbled into, literally.
That's right. Nicki Minaj lyrics just went through my head when you were talking about lucky, and then you said blessed, and I'm thinking, you know, her lyrics, no, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. Yes, that just went through my head. So, but that is good. I mean, that's a good point, right? You want to be lucky enough to have a mentor in life, people. So that's one of the plugs, right? You just put a plug out there for people. A mentor is definitely someone that, you know, hopefully everyone has in life. And if you don't, find one, or, you know, hopefully they find you. So Texas native, you're currently, like we said, in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So you are married to your beautiful
Yeah.
wife, Tracy. And let's talk about this unique blend of a family that you all have, because I am so inspired by you. Clearly, I have you here because you are the type of person that I want, you know, my company to represent. I want my company to be a part. I want you to be a part of my company, because we clearly share the same type of heartstrings.
Yeah.
Really,
Awesome.
just tell us about it. It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, my family is a little different. So kind of the going back to kind of the history of my family, when I was right after I graduated from TCU, I was a Sunday school teacher at a church in Fort Worth, Texas, and went on a retreat one weekend. And this absolutely fantastic person came and joined some of the folks that were running the retreat, who would later be my wife. And she came probably about a month later to my Sunday school class, and I'm sitting there terrified, like, all right, I'm in church, I'm teaching Sunday school class. Most of the students in my class were seminary students, so it was a very high level. I had to learn how to use Greek and I can't even remember concordances and books. I had to teach a very high level, and so I've got this amazing individual in my Sunday school class that I would love to spend more time with, but I'm like, I'm the Sunday school teacher. That is weird. I can't go there. But eventually, I guess I broke through that barrier and was like, hey, Tracy, you're awesome. Let's hang out. She was a teacher there. She taught at an inner city school there in Fort Worth, Texas. So we ended up getting married about a year ago, or about a year after
Later.
that, 2003.
You still got you
And I
tripping
spent
over
a
your
year,
tongue. I love it.
yeah, like, oh man, I was trying to run through this in my head this morning, trying to get the timeline right. So about a year into our marriage, my wife Tracy got very, very sick. We had actually went on a trip to Waco, Texas, to find a house because I was going to go to law school in Baylor Law School. And the night that we got back from going to Baylor, she just had this terrible pain. Got her up. This is in Fort Worth still, and take her to the hospital. And she had ovarian cancer. No idea that she had any type of health issues, but was in tremendous pain. And I remember sitting there, and the doctor came in and was describing, hey, this is kind of what we found with your wife, and said, hey, we had to do a full hysterectomy. We are confident that we can get rid of all of this, but it's going to take chemotherapy and months. And I remember thinking, and this is again kind of where the luck came in, because this is not the way that I think. I'm usually kind of a doomsday person, and my mind should have went to the very worst thing. But I remember thinking, she's going to be all right, and I'm not going to go to law school. I'm going to find a different career, and I'm going to take care of her, and we are going to build a family. I had to ask, what's a hysterectomy? What is that? And she explained it to me. I didn't know, and then I was like, oh, wow. Because again, we wanted to have a family, and I was like, all right, we're going to do this differently. And you know, if you wanted to put kind of a tag on how everything is spooled out, that's exactly how it's spooled. I found an amazing career outside of going to law school, and we built a family after that. So about a year after that, I took a mobilization in Washington D.C. and we started to look into adoption. And the cool thing was that I was in the right place to do, really just again lucky. I was in the right place to do an international adoption because I was where I needed to get documents from the State Department and the Chinese consulate. We decided to adopt from China, and was in the right place and had some fantastic judge advocates that were my mentors there, to to allow me to take off the time that I needed to go run paperwork because I was adopting someone on the other side, and go do all the security stuff because I had to travel to China eventually at the end of that process. So went to China for about 3 weeks and adopted my first son. He was 2.5, and a fluent Mandarin speaker. When we brought him home, he is my 17 now. He's really my adventure sports climbing battle buddy. Amazing son. He has a limb difference. He was born without a forearm, so you wouldn't notice it. He's a rock climber. He's a fencer. It's just absolutely amazing. So after I left PPNTO, I went to the JAG school, and that's about, and for those out there that don't know, it's about an hour and a half away from the National Capital Region. And we get a call from the same agency that helped us with our adoption in China, and said, hey, we have another child with a limb difference, and we noticed that you are still open to adoption and open to a child with a limb difference. And I said, absolutely, this is awesome. We weren't specifically looking, we had just let them know, hey, we still want to be on the list for an adoption. Growing up, I had never thought about ever being a dad. It wasn't like something I kind of aspired to, but even though it is absolutely amazing to do. So we had just kind of thought, okay, let's I guess we're gonna have a bigger family. So that was my daughter, who is absolutely amazing as well. Is a ice skater, adventure backpacker extraordinaire too, and gets around her limb difference like you would never believe. So after only less than a year after.
So where did you adopt her from? The same place, from China as well?
She was in Washington, D.C. actually.
Okay.
So nice. Yes. Amazing. Yeah, so she was in Washington, D.C. So that's where we completed that. So didn't have to go to China. Okay. So again, from Washington, D.C., about 7 or 8 months later, we get the same call. Oh my gosh. And they say, hey, we have a son. We're not really sure what his difference is, but it could potentially, this is kind of how they talk to us, could be potentially do something where he cannot process food properly, and you're going to have to feed him like every 2 hours for the rest of his life. Like it was a really kind of complicated thing. We had to really sit down and think, all right, are we willing to do that? And we sat down our other 2 children and talked to them. And of course, I didn't really know probably what we were talking to them about, but they said, sure. And, I had kind of already decided that, kind of my philosophy is we're going to do what we can, and until we can't. Exactly. That's kind of a simple way of really doing that. But we're like, we have the capability of caring for this child, and let's do it. And it'll get my oldest son a brother. That's pretty cool. So, and my daughter another brother too. So from Washington, D.C., came to find out that he had a different condition. That's not quite as complicated as that. The first couple of months when we brought him home, we were waking up in the middle of the night and feeding him. And we got a call one day while I was TDY, I think with the Command Sergeant Major Lister. We were out somewhere. It's for some reason in Patrick Lister in San Antonio, got a call and said he doesn't have that. He's got something else. We're not sure, but you can call your wife and let her know that she can sleep through the night. So that was a tremendous blessing. So still has some issues that he's working through, but again, just absolutely tremendous. An ice skater too. They ice skate here at Fort Bragg. Wow. I would never guess that Fort Bragg has a great ice skating rink, but they have an ice skating community here, which is pretty cool. Oh. So
that child? Is that
what was that?
Is that child from Leon?
From Washington, D.C. too. Oh, yeah, wow. from the D.C. area. Yeah. So I think we were at so we moved from the JAG school, come to Fort Bragg, and we're kind of looking across the country, and we had decided that we were a little more open now that we had kind of seen a broad spectrum of differences. We're like, we're going to just open our house to anything and see what God has for us. And maybe our family has grown, maybe not. We'll just kind of leave it on up to them. We had never really had like, we want 4 children or anything like that. We just kind of opened it up. So while I was here at Fort Bragg the first time, I think this would have been 2014 or 15, got another call from another agency out in Las Vegas and said, hey, we have another child. We are quite certain this child has Down syndrome. And that had, all right, Tracy, let's sit down and really talk about this. What are we capable of? Because our other children have lots of needs that we need to meet. And eventually, another thing is too. So my children, I have a multiracial mix. I don't think I said that. So we're always thinking
Chinese,
about, hey,
right?
we're open to this. Yes, and Betsy and my daughter and my son are African American. And first generation African American. Their parents, I think, were originally from West Africa.
Oh wow.
And so we're always cognizant of we can protect them from attitudes that are sometimes in this country not very friendly to this type of family and to this type of individual, but they're not always going to be with us. So that's kind of in the back of our mind, and raising them to be very proud of who they are, so that when they are outside of our protection, they're not going to take a lot of the messages that the world has that would denigrate them, and that we're still working through as a country, obviously, to bring them lower than to who they are, that they're amazing, and they're already going to have to work through their differences that they have too, their limb differences, and being adopted, and coming from a multiracial family in a country that has struggled with treating them with the dignity and respect that they should be showing everybody. So we had to think about that for our youngest as well in Down syndrome, because folks get no matter how age, when they have that condition, they get teased, and recognizing that he would probably be with us long into our twilight years, that we would be caring for him. And we said, yeah, we can do that. And so this was in Las Vegas. I was actually at an on-site. We got a call one morning where I had a PT test of all things the next morning, and we got a call at like midnight saying, hey, a family has chosen for you for this child, and he's ready to come home. So took my PT test, ran to an on-site in Salt Lake City, and then flew to Las Vegas to bring him home. Met my wife, and I remember when we sat down with the counselor that basically had that we were going through with the adoption agency. He gives us this packet and says, hey, this is the medical history of what we know about this child. And we're going through, and I pull out my phone, I see all these other conditions, and I'm Googling them, and I'm like, I don't even know what these are. And I see heart issue, see cardiac arrhythmia kind of things, all these other things. And I remember just feeling this sense like, you need to stop. This is why you're here, to give them a family, to deal with all this stuff in this packet. Because I was getting scared. I was like, I didn't know that this is what we would need to deal with as soon as we got them. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, all right. And I think probably Tracy probably nudged me like, hey, the counselor's trying to tell us some stuff important, and you're looking up.
Close that up and listen.
Yeah, shut up and listen.
Right.
But it was just like, yeah, he really needs a family to care for him, and someone that's got, I was like, what, someone that's got pretty rad medical care like we get in the military. Yes, he's going to be just fine. Let's get him and bring him home so that we can dig more into everything that he's got, and we can get him ready for the most brilliant future that we can make for him. So that's what we did. Brought him home, and he is amazing. My kids tease me and say that he's my favorite. But it's impossible to have favorites, but he is awesome. He's just a bright little joy for us, and in every single day. And my kids just adore him, take care of him, and he goes to school here, or did. He's on school break. Just has amazing teachers here that work with him. My wife's a teacher, obviously, so she homeschools all of my kids. Which just worked out again too, just kind of lucky. If my children were in a normal public school, they would be pulled out so much for their medical care and the different issues. It would be very disruptive, and
Exactly.
homeschooling just makes that happen. And as our family has been designed, my wife's a teacher, so she handles that. So she is just amazing and phenomenal in
Wow.
in raising my kids. So yeah, that's kind of how our family has come into being. And again, there wasn't really that initiative. It's something that I think in my career I've always kind of gone for whatever opportunities were given us, but never out there looking for the opportunities. They've just been, here it is. All right, I'll do that. So that's kind of where the luck comes in. And at the end of the day, it was somebody senior to me that was looking out for me, probably much more so than luck. But I was lucky to have them to be pushing me to do that, and having this agency in Washington, D.C. and in Las Vegas looking out for us too, and keeping us in mind when they had children that needed a home.
Wow. That was so incredibly touching. I have not like cried in any of my interviews, and I'm really trying to hold back because
Oh, no way. Please.
no, I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I'm
serious.
sorry.
You are like so amazing. Oh my God.
So I've recounted that too, and it used to be hard for me to go through it. I think it's just my wife's been in remission for 15 or 16 years. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary. We took an awesome trip camping with the family to kind of celebrate last week. But yeah, it's easier to talk about now. I'd say a decade ago, I couldn't have gone through that too, because it was so raw, and having to think, that I'm about to give my wife the worst news that she has ever heard. We're a year into our marriage. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm about to tell her that she's gonna lose all of her hair. She's gonna go through 6 months of chemotherapy, and our plan for having children is gone. How to do that? And I honestly don't know how I did it. I think it probably took me 2 or 3 days to do that, for her to realize, what did my husband just tell me?
Yeah, I mean,
But
wow.
yeah, but it had, I have to say, this is probably going to sound too trite than it should, but it worked out. There was a plan there. And I remember thinking the first night while I was laying in a bed in China, in this, communist country, wondering, how in the world did I get here, looking at my first son, and just getting the senses that you're in the right place. This is where you should be. Yeah, it's weird and uncomfortable, and you're in the middle of this city in southern China, far away from your friends and family, but you're in the right place, and you're doing the right thing.
No, you are.
So
It's touching to me because I have, my daughter is 17 and she's gonna be 18 in January, and she's gonna graduate high school. But I've had 6 pregnancies, and it's like my husband and I have had 3 miscarriages in the 10 years we've been together. But your story, it's like, it's really hopeful. It's so hopeful, and it's like, I don't know, it's like maybe one day that'll be the way that, we do it, if I decide to start all over, because, haven't still not processed the miscarriages, and just taking I do affirm as my new baby. It's like, that's kind of, that's like, I haven't processed that. And you and your wife are amazing. And I don't even know how you have dealt with that stuff, but I mean, this is phenomenal. Like, this was your calling. I feel like this was like, God was like, this is for you. And look what you did. I mean, honestly, you had to deal with so much. I mean, your wife obviously as well, but 1 year into a marriage, dealing with a spouse with cancer, a hysterectomy, having, 4 children with, just like you said, not disabilities, but less abilities. And I mean, just, I know you have a Chinese, 2 African Americans. They were Sierra Leone refugees, correct? I mean, what's the fourth
yeah,
child?
yeah. So it's interesting. His parents are from China,
Wow.
but born here in the United States.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is phenomenal. Like, you're such an amazing human. And I just want, like, I wish I could just reach out and give you and your wife a hug, because it's amazing to have people in the world like you guys to just, I mean, be good people. Like, that is awesome. So God bless you from me to you and your wife, Tracy, right? Tracy, like, God bless you.
Yeah.
That is
And
so
I
awesome.
appreciate that. And we dealing with a miscarriage is a huge thing too. And you know, we were in a community kind of after my wife's hysterectomy of working with a lot of other folks that were dealing with that too, because we're like, hey, this was a loss too. And one thing that we recognized was that you know, our society doesn't deal with that very well, and seeing that as the loss that it is. You know, and just, hey, we lost. You know, a hysterectomy is losing everything all at once, but a miscarriage is multiple losses on top of each other,
Oh,
and you know, when you think about it like that, and we don't do a very well job, I think, of recognizing that in the pain of that. So
I
God
literally
bless you
had
for doing
a
that as well.
I literally had a miscarriage in the office at the Pentagon, literally in the office
Oh wow.
on a Friday, and came back to work on Monday. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I
See,
had
that
one
you
miscarriage.
hadn't even started to process that.
No,
But
no. And
no,
then
yeah.
I remember that because I was putting up balloons for, actually, it was General Escalier's birthday. It was, I believe her birthday was November the 5th. I was putting up balloons, and then I felt it happen. And then I rushed downstairs to, you know, the clinic, and they tested my levels, and they had, you know, of course, started to, like, they were terrible. And then I had another one just a couple months later in February, and that one was a miscarriage. I actually went, and, you know, there was no heartbeat, and it was supposed to be 10 weeks, but when they did, you know, the sonogram, it was, you know, like at 6 weeks when it was supposed to be at 10. So that was the second in just a shorter period of time. But I had another one with my husband in 2014. But I think one of the biggest ones I had was in it was like around I think 2007 or so. I was like 5 months pregnant, wearing the uniform in my unit, right? And I went to go and find out the sex of my baby. And I was there for like hours. And then I'm like, well, what is it? And it usually doesn't take very long to see either a penis or a vagina, you know? And they're like, well, your
Yeah.
doctor's going to have to call you. I'm like, this is really strange. Cause at that point I'd already had, a baby before. And so they told me I had my doctor eventually told me I had an anencephalic fetus. So the baby, basically the spinal cord didn't attach to like the back of the head. So it didn't really grow a brain. So it was going to die outside of the womb anyways. So they were giving me the decision to whether or not I wanted to like abort it or carry it to full term and, you know, basically just spend whatever time I had. So unfortunately, it ended up being stillborn. So I had to literally give birth to a baby that was 3 ounces. It was a baby boy, 3 ounces, give it a name, death certificate, birth certificate. It was cremated. I mean, it was like the stuff that women go through. And that's why I'm so incredibly distraught by the Roe versus Wade, because having been a person that is like, you know, has gone through this crap like 5 different times, it's like, really? But anyways, I say all that to just say, your story tells me that there is still hope. If I really do want to, you know, be an amazing mother to more than just my one 17-year-old child, and my bonus child, my husband's son, who is almost 23, then, you know, obviously there are a lot of children out there who need love like they're receiving from you and your wife, and I can still do it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and we thought about fostering too.
yeah.
It's been almost 10 years since we last adopted. So it's been you know, and we're getting older. So we're thinking, all right, you know, newborn probably out of our league.
Oh
And
God.
that's okay. You know, but you know, and I don't know how we did it. With there's, you know, paperwork, and they come to your house and stuff, but
Yeah.
the Army has, you know, the rules have changed even since we last adopted, where you can get maternity and paternity leave now.
Mhm. They're
There's a
directed.
grant that comes from
Yep.
DoD to offset there's tax incentives and stuff too. So
Oh, that's nice.
you know, society is making it easier
Oh,
than
that's
it is, but there's still there's red tape, but it's worth it. I'll say that if you ever felt led to that,
yeah.
um,
I
it's
definitely
a
have
long
an
process.
AGR friend in the Army. She's legal. I won't say her name on camera, but I can definitely give you her name if you want to. She wouldn't mind me sharing with you.
Oh,
She is
absolutely.
she's fostering right now, so I'll
Oh,
message
wow.
you after. Yeah, she's fostering. So
Sweet.
she's up in the DC area and she's fostering. She's in the AGR as well. So
Okay, very cool.
I'll let you
Awesome.
know. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a surprise question before, I
Sure.
got a couple more questions before I wrap it up with you. But so we're talking about luck, and so I think it would be fun to ask if you basically today was like the luckiest day on earth for you, which it sounds like you've had pretty lucky days in your life. What would you want your luck to behold? What would you want to just land right there in your hands? And you can be selfish,
Wow.
Steve, okay? Because clearly you have not lived a selfish life. You can be selfish. Tracy, he's going to be selfish for a minute, okay? Don't hold this against him.
Wow, that's a good question. So I could go at wow, a couple of so I've got like my personal ones, like that would
Okay.
be, hey, to get a hey, we just gave you we're gonna get my favorite part of the country is in the Pacific Northwest, and I would love to go out there and just spend the rest of my life with my kids, teaching them. And what my oldest son already knows how to do this: alpine mountaineering and go climb mountains.
Oh, nice.
Um, there is Iceland has an interesting relationship with people with physical disabilities, and I've always wanted to be like, all right, I think it would be nice to give them a different perspective as a country. Just their laws are very not terribly friendly in that regard. To go find the tallest mountain in Iceland and climb it with a bunch of differently abled folks, I think that would be the pinnacle of what I would love to do, because it's my hobby. I do it. My son's done it since he was 10, out in the middle of the northern Cascades, with crampons and an ice axe, climbing on ice and snow. It is a place that I just love to be, and him too.
Wow.
But I guess in the second too, I'm a bit of a kind of a history nerd, and
Yes, you
love just
are.
research and writing. Yeah, I've been working for the last year and kind of undigging the history of where the one of our actually where the legal command and where legal units came from, and where kind of as a component the Army Reserve JAG Corps came from, and digging up the legislative history. It's just fascinating. It's a rabbit hole. My wife is like, "Why are you reading these reports from 1917? What are you doing?" And oh, this is fascinating. TJAG's report, General Enoch Crowder's reports to Congress from
Yeah.
1918. I was like, wake up, Tracy. You got to read this. It's fascinating. So anyway, getting something where I could do that just as a writer and sitting on a mountaintop and researching all this kind of stuff. It's just fascinating. So that'd probably be my dream job. And then again, helping folks that are differently able get out into the wilderness and just experience it. And people of color too. There's the outdoor community has really jumped into in probably the last decade of trying to be more diverse.
Mhm.
We had the first all African American team summit Mount Everest about a month ago, and it didn't get as much media attention as I think it deserves. And being an inspiration of saying you can go out, because the outdoors have not always been very friendly to
Right.
other communities in the United States. So
Right.
being part of that movement, it's something that I definitely intend to do once I retire in my free time at some point, helping folks that are kind of been marginalized and say, let's get outside. And it can be a safe environment where if you get in trouble, you're going to be okay. And there are going to be friendly people that can come and help you out instead of kind of abandoning you because of who you are, which is just messed up.
Oh,
So,
see, I
yeah.
love you. I love how I told you not to be selfish. I mean, to be selfish, and you still were not selfish. That is the
No,
type of
that's
person.
absolutely selfish. I'd be in my
It's
element doing that.
amazing. Look at you. There you go, right there. Oh, I love it. Well, I will definitely tell you on that history thing. I absolutely think you should pursue trying to do like a lore of the core Army Reserve version for JAG for the regiment.
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to be able to author that. I know Fred is going to be retiring here soon, but I mean, Fred doesn't have to do everything, and you should totally get behind the likes of that. So I'm putting it out there in the universe, and I'm hooking you up with that. You need
That's
it.
awesome. And his research has really helped too. I've leaned on some of the stuff that he's done in World War One, which is kind of where our component really starts, 1916, our component JAG element. But anyway, yeah, he is amazing. He's awesome.
And so are you. You are amazing too. So you know how some people say, well, if it weren't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all, right? So what advice would you give to those kind of people?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is in perspective. I could have really me and my wife could have really just crawled into a hole when we were going through her sickness, and kind of collapsed into, for lack of a better term, just self-pity and saying, why us? But we had, I think we had the time to process it a little bit, because all we were doing was kind of working her through her care. And I think that gave us a perspective of, hey, this could be a lot worse, and we're going to go through this. We can't just stop. We're only we've got our whole marriage ahead of us. We can't just stop. So I think it's a lot of perspective, realizing that particularly, not want to make this specific to any Americans that are hearing this, but we're very blessed in our country and what we have.
We are.
Phenomenally so, of those of us that are in the military and have a nation that supports us in an awesome way as well. So having that perspective, and also that to always have your radar on for when there's an opportunity to break through that wall that looks like you're just not getting any luck. Because sometimes the unluckiest things in the world that can happen to you are an opportunity to grow. If we don't have adversity that comes to us, I had a climbing accident when I was in the Sergeant Major's Academy, and just jacked up both of my Achilles tendons, and I'm still working through it. But the cool thing is that I have soldiers that work in this office that have been hurt, and I can talk to them about, hey, I was hurt too. So there was a silver lining, even though I was hobbling my last month at the Sergeant Major Academy, and my last run with them was just hobbling over because I was in a lot of pain. But now I get it. I until then I didn't get injuries and how profiles worked and all of that stuff. So there was a silver lining that I bank on every day when I can talk to folks that are that. So that's an opportunity. I could have just fallen and be like, all right, I'm never going to run again. This is terrible. Definitely not going to go climb mountains again. And working through that and finding a way around that. You can't stop when there is so much opportunity out there, especially in this country, that sometimes you have to go look for it. The phrase that I don't think is too trite, maybe it sounds, hunting the good stuff, the MRT phrase. Sometimes the bad stuff is the good stuff. You just got to kind of flip that rock around and look at it in a different perspective. So that's what I would let them know. It's all perspective, but you can't let that just stop you, because you're a human being with infinite value and worth, and you got to rest on that and then move forward.
That's right. Like your quote or tagline, like you said, and you just said it, but not in your words, would be get after it, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Get after it, and don't stop. Don't stop when you've got the pain, you've got the law, and there is no way we can hedge against bad luck and bad things happening. As I think the whole country has seen in the last 2 years, with COVID hitting folks. I've lost friends, and
Yeah.
one of my chief paralegals passed from COVID, Master Sergeant Brian Tolliver.
Right.
That hit him. That he was the first person that I thought of when they stuck me with that vaccine. Like, golly, a year and a half, he could have gotten this, and we could have saved Brian. But so there is a lot of misfortune around in this country, disproportionately hitting all kinds of communities too. And you've got to work through that and see ways through it and keep getting after it.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. You have inspired and empowered me through your stories, and I already knew you were an amazing person. And I know we've had, some talks over the years about like, how do I order this book? And just, little professional talks, but we've never, ever had any type of, real talk like this. And I'm very happy that I got to know you on this level. And thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that too. And likewise as well, you sharing your story. I know that's not an easy thing for you to talk about as well. So I do appreciate that, ma'am. I really do.
Steve, if you keep calling me ma'am, I just called you Steve.
I'm sorry.
I'm Jessica.
I'm sorry. It's my sergeant major in me, which I got to turn off because it's after 1800.
Yes.
my soldiers are gone. We had PT and had we grilled meat out today. So we had I've had 100% of an Army day today. So it's good. And this is awesome. This has been fantastic too, man.
Oh,
I'm sorry. See, I did it again.
That's okay. You're a good person. It shines. It shines all over you, inside and out. You take care and go home to those kids and your wife. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we get off of here?
No, I just thank you for this forum. I think it's really awesome, and the opportunity to do this. I know that you've interviewed from some other folks too, and what you're providing. Just thank you for that, and letting us just talk to our story. It's been a while since I've kind of walked through that, and that was cool. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for what you're doing and continue to do. And hopefully listening to your story and inspires other people to do the same.
Too easy. Absolutely. Yeah. And you have a fantastic evening too. I know you got another meeting.
I got a virtual baby shower to put on. So I'm excited about that.
That's cool. See, thinking out of the box too. That's really cool. And Zoom is underutilized. I've got a Zoom Pro account too. That I use for meetings where we don't talk about PII, and it is such an amazing tool. So that's cool that you're doing that.
Zoom and you got Amazon, you can do anything.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely.
Take care.
Cool. Bye. Awesome, thank you. You have a good night too.
You too.
Have a good one.
Bye. Hi there. Thank you so much for tuning in to another I Do Affirm Affirmation Conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation with Steve, and I hope that you did too. He made me cry. I don't cry. I'm a G. I can't believe he broke me down like that. But it was really beautiful to have that conversation with him and to learn about his amazing family. He is a truly amazing person, and this world is lucky to have someone like him. And the world is lucky to have someone like you. Steve reminds us to see the world through other people's eyes. And I kind of like that perspective. And I'm going to try that this week. He also wants to remind you to be persistent, right? We say we're blessed or we're lucky, however you see it. But regardless, you have to be persistent for things to happen in your life. You have talents and attributes that may not manifest until you are truly tested. So get after it and stay the course. It's not going to be easy, but if it's truly meant for you, it will be worth it. But you have to keep putting your best foot forward every single day. And don't give up. Never quit. If it's meant to be, it will be. If it's meant for you, it will happen. We cannot be lucky all the time. And that's why it's called luck. Don't give up on yourself and don't listen to the naysayers. If you believe something is for you, if it's in your faith to pray about it, pray about it. Otherwise, just continue to look at yourself in the mirror every day with your bad self and say, I am blessed. I am lucky. It's for me. It will be. And you got this. Thanks for tuning in and take care of yourself. And I love you. Yes, I love you.